Sorry.
You guys ready?
Sorry.
Here we
I
go.
know. I like the way you think, though.
I'd like to call to order agenda of the Belton City Council work session and regular meeting, June 25th, 2019. We're going to call the work session to order. Items for discussion, review and discussion. First up, A is medical marijuana, UDC amendments, and who is going to talk to that?
Yeah, this evening we've got Dave Clements, our Planning and Building Director, who worked in correlation with Patrick Corcoran, our City Attorney, to look at the needed amendments that we would have to have regarding medical marijuana, and Dave will be speaking to this.
Thank you very much, Mayor. City Manager, David Clements, Director of Planning and Building. This work session item pertains to proposed amendments to the Unified Development Code to provide regulations regarding medical marijuana in accordance with the purposes of the state constitution as a result of the vote on Amendment 2. What we have before you tonight is a recommendation of the Planning Commission. Planning Commission convened a public hearing on June 3rd and process this recommendation onto the City Council. The recommendations that we're looking for, the amendments that we're looking for, pertain to three sections of the Unified Development Code. Number one, we are adding a number of new definitions to the definition section, defining marijuana cultivation facilities, dispensary facilities, marijuana-infused manufacturing facilities, and transportation facilities. Adding all of those definitions to our definition section and general provisions of the code. The other thing we will be doing is amending Chapter 40. Chapter 40 is the use table of the Unified Development Code. That's the matrix where all the uses are listed, and there's little X's in the boxes that indicate permitted uses, or C's in the boxes meaning use that's permitted with conditions. So all those uses that we just defined in the new definitions, we are adding to the use matrix, so they will be listed alphabetically in the use matrix with a accordant and related category for where there are permitted or conditional uses. The last thing we will be doing with Unified Development Code is adding language as to those uses that are subject to conditions. And really, for the medical marijuana, this really pertains to the separation requirement. The state statute, and we have a map here. It states that no medical marijuana dispensary or cultivation facility shall be within 1,000 feet of a school, a church, or a playground. And so we, of course, wanted to research that radius constraint and see what kinds of opportunities there would be for those facilities in Belton. And it's kind of a busy map here we have, but it's based off our GIS system. And the areas shown in red are areas zoned commercial where a medical marijuana dispensary would be permitted. And, you know, I was kind of pleased that the locations made sense to me. We have a large commercial area right at I-49 and 58 Highway. So that makes sense in terms of a regional draw off the interstate for dispensaries at this location. There's also some locations along Cedar Y Highway and a few locations along North Scott that would be zoned appropriately for dispensary facilities and not within 1,000 feet of a church, school, or daycare facility. We also have a buffer map showing cultivation and dispensaries facilities, and those are in pink. Those are areas zoned manufacturing that a cultivation facility or a transportation facility would be permitted. And you'll see there's just a few of the pink areas where those uses might be permitted. So we think we have adequately addressed the requirements that the state is asking us to do in bringing forward these amendments to our Unified Development Code. Patrick Corcoran has been a very valuable asset working through this with our staff and the Planning Commission. And at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know Patrick would be happy to fill in any blanks too.
Councilman Clark.
Mr. Clements, do we not throw parks into this equation either, or just churches, daycares, and schools?
Schools and daycares.
Okay. I just saw a little piece over by Marquee Park, and I'm thinking like kind of a weird little spot there, but not blown up where Memorial Park is or some of the other parks, or Wallace Park, so I just wanted to make sure.
It's a busy map. Yeah, we go.
Dave, the furthest out to the west, where's that at? Is that off of Holmes?
Yes, sir, this is. That's the vacant property up behind the Johnson's Berries off of Holmes,
Okay.
across the street from the gas station.
How many applicants do we anticipate?
Oh, I have no idea, sir. I've had quite a few calls, a lot of interest. But the application deadline is, for the state, the application deadline is August 4th. So that's when they will be accepting applications. So, we hope to get our amendments done, bring them back to the city council July 9th perhaps, and have a final ordinance. And then all of our requirements will be done, and prospective applicants then will be able to look at our code and see what the city is setting up for these types of activities. And if they choose to, they can proceed with an application on August 4th.
Councilman Trutzel?
Is there anything in state law that determines how many you can have in a certain area for population growth?
There is.
Yes, so Amendment 2 doesn't directly deal with like density requirements for, I know it's common for liquor licenses, will be like, one port per every 10,000 inhabitants of the city of Belton. Amendment 2 instead deals with it via congressional districts for dispensaries and then general state population for cultivation and infused products manufacturing facilities. So for dispensary facilities, there can be 24 for the 8 congressional districts. So within a congressional district, there'll be 24 dispensary facilities. And the intent of DHSS and the mandate that is provided to them by Amendment 2 is that they have to ensure patient access. What that means is that they need to spread those 24 across the congressional district so that every potential patient has access to a dispensary and not let them all site in one city or locality to the detriment of a potential patient that is, 300 miles away.
Thank you.
Councilman Lathrop, you had a question?
Do we not have a choice on whether we allow them or not?
No, sir, you don't.
That's what I thought.
Well, why is that, Patrick, that we have no choice?
Amendment 2 specifically says that cities may not ban or effectively ban medical marijuana facilities through unduly burdensome ordinances and regulations.
And I'd like to just maybe point out, this is a map that shows a 1,000-foot radius that I mentioned earlier, but I think it's good to point out that we also have a 1,000-foot radius now in a Unified Development Code for liquor stores and for smoke shops. So, we're treating these medical marijuana facilities in the exact same fashion we treat these other uses. So I think that's a very important point to make.
Did we used to do tattoos that way too? Is it tattoos parlors? I think we did. 1,000 feet, wasn't it?
I thought there was a limit, yes.
Yeah, tattoo parlors, I believe. Yes, sir.
So my question is back to Patrick. So it's basically we're in Hartzler's district is what you're saying. So her district goes from Columbia to here all the way down south. So you're saying there's 24 in that district?
Yes, exactly. And, we have other clients that are in the 6th Congressional District, which stretches from Bethany, Missouri, all the way down to Hannibal, and includes parts of Lee Summit, St. Joe, North Kansas City, Liberty, and they're going to have to try and spread 24 throughout that as well. So it'll be an interesting selection process.
Wow. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dave. We
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it. Thank you so much. B, Bellray Connector Trail. Who's going to talk on that?
I will take the lead on that with support from Brian Wellborn, our park director, Terry Ward, our park chair of our park board, and Celia Duran, our public works director.
Well, why don't you two, Brian and Terry, why don't you come up here and wait by the, please? And we'll get going. You don't have to stand up, Celia, you can sit down there. Yeah.
To bring the council up to speed, you'll recall about a year ago, maybe a couple of years ago, the Bellray Connector Trail was brought back to the attention of the council, in that in 2015, the park board brought a grant application to the city council to apply for a TAP grant in the amount of $500,000 to put in a trail that would go from the High Blue Wellness Center and come down Mullen Road, cross over back behind the hospital, go back behind in some neighborhoods, and eventually end up over at the Raymore border along Kentucky. That was done by two positions back, park director, and at that time, when that plan came, it was more of a very high-level plan. It really wasn't vetted out, and it wasn't planned. And so when Brian arrived in the city here about a year ago, and he sat down and talked with City of Durand, they started actively, because Public Works would serve as the project manager. So they actively looked at this grant and to see how it was going to be planned out, and they enlisted the aid of an engineer, and they started planning it. And after a lot of review, the original belief of the former park director was that all of the land that would need to be had for the right-of-way would be donated. That is not the belief of the landowners that are along there, including the hospital and some major businesses that are through there. They don't, they're concerned about the placement of the trail. And one of the largest concerns that we have from a safety perspective, when Brian and Celia brought myself and Terry up to speed, is the fact that some of this trail would have to go right along the edge of Mullen Road as it goes past the cottages. You know, there's a underground culvert through there, a main waterway, and you would have to take part of that road to be part of the trail and part of that access there. And it's just a very dangerous route. And we don't, after looking at it and considering the amount of money that it would take to purchase right-of-way from all of the affected landowners, we had to kind of give it a 10,000-foot level and go, if we have a etch-a-sketch moment and we're looking at this grant from the very first time and looking at how it should have been planned and coordinated, this doesn't make sense to go forward with this. So their recommendation is to return those funds and to look at trail placement and location that would serve the citizens of our community better and in a safer manner. And so in doing that, before we would want to turn back any grant dollars that we've received, I contacted Mid-America Regional Council to ensure that this wouldn't impact us in the future, because they sometimes are not favorable when you ask for a grant and then you turn it back over. What was told to me was they kind of said, talk about your highlights. I shared everything with them, that it really technically wasn't feasible. And then the biggest thing is that Raymore was not contacted, and they had no plans for a trail. So while it may have been called the Bell Ray Trail, it would have dead-ended at Raymore, and there was no plans for it to go on the other side and through Raymore, which from our perspective at that time, from what I understand, the perspective was try to get the trail all the way then out, continue going east. Raymore has no plans for that then, and they don't have any plans for that now. And just beyond the poor design and layout, along with no communication that occurred with our neighboring community, the businesses that are not in favor of it, the associated landowners, we believe at this time it is in the best interest of the city, with the agreement of Mid-America Regional Council, to turn those dollars back over. The positive part to that is that those dollars would still remain within the region if they are turned back over, and so that another community could use it. We would be viewed much less favorably if we were turning those dollars back over and they had to go back to the federal government. Where it is now, that pool of dollars that it originally came from is still available, can be redistributed for other projects. And we are encouraged, just like everybody else, that if we have other trail projects, to reapply and know that we would have just as much of a chance as anybody else for another project going forward. Did actually ask, well, could we use it on another trail? And they said no, that that's not looked upon favorably, and that nobody up on the TAP, the Transportation Alternatives Program through Mark, would agree to doing that. So we believe at this time that is in the best interest to go ahead and send the letter to Mid-America Regional Council so that they can put those dollars back into the rest of the region. But because you approved that grant, we wanted to make you aware of that situation. Did I miss anything, Brian or Terry or Celia, or anything else you'd like to add?
Spot on.
Okay.
Well, I guess we're up to questions now. Any questions? I know I've written down a couple as we were talking. We touched on the Raymore plan. They didn't ever have a plan to do that. And of course, the ultimate goal, I think, if I remember right, Brian, was Terry, to meet up with the Katy Trail and Pleasant Hill as they went further east.
That's correct.
That-
It was,
is that
they
true,
were
or was
hoping that it would connect all the trail systems, from Belton to Raymore onto the Katy Trails. It was,
Right.
that was the idea, the concept
Okay, so my
behind it.
next question would be, is there still plans with Oil Creek to take the trail on further north, a trail sometime across 155th with proximity to Longview Lake and all the trails we could hook up north?
That is in the master trail plan, to do that. There's nothing, we're not currently working on that. I know at one time we talked about making that area a nature area, a trail, but with the flooding of Oil Creek has been a
You just had to
challenge.
say that,
I'm
didn't you?
just saying what it is.
It is, it's bad, it's tough. But, so that is still that's in your master plan and you guys are still kicking it around. And do you know what the proximity, how far it is from the end of trail that we have to across 155th to Longview? It's not very far.
It's not that far. The issues are gonna be that we're gonna have to cross Oil Creek 4 times.
Oh, wow.
The way
I
Oil
didn't
Creek
know
does
that.
this, and anytime you start building bridges, it really starts racking up the dollars.
Oh, I see Public Works shaking her head saying, yes.
And it's also a floodplain issue. You can't restrict the flow too, so you would have to, those bridges would probably be expensive to have to look at that and make sure it doesn't restrict water.
I see all of the floodplains are being utilized for trails down like 103rd Street. I mean, sometimes that's not a good thing. But I'm just thinking, because we really do, and one of our big targets, I know Carolyn has, is for bikers and for joggers, for our millennials, that they have that ability to, I can imagine how far we could go if we went to Longview and hit all those trails all through there. And
Absolutely.
so I think that's something for a vision in the future that at least that we can still consider. So it's a break that we don't have to get slapped for it, and somebody else in the area, can't they? They can utilize the money
Oh,
again, so.
right.
Because generally, that's why everybody be mad at us, because they couldn't get the money maybe, but now maybe they can grab that money. All right, anybody
and
else? Okay,
I know at one time we had started doing some engineering, I thought, and easement rights. I mean, have we spent any of this money?
The Parks has, yes.
The park has?
Yeah, we paid for design through an engineering firm in Kansas City. That design is still there. If somewhere this turns favorable 10, 15 years from now, the plan is still there. Don't like the plan going right next to a busy street, but it is there. And then we did spend some money on right-of-ways to do evaluations of how much land we'd have to take to build the trail.
I know in my short time here before, I didn't even know about this trail, and I had some residents that lived behind it, didn't want it. But, so they'll be happy to hear that it's gonna be canceled, so.
we were
Yes,
trying to get it through your backyard.
I'm not even close to it, so.
Wow,
Mayor.
comments?
Who was the design controller here as far as, I realize Parks and we're separate here, but you had an engineer that designed it in an area that you don't like it, and it's been said it's not liked. Why was that allowed? How'd that come to play in the first place?
It's before my time.
We did pay for that, or I should say the park
It's
did.
been in the works, like I said, we had the funding back we got the, from Mark in 2014. And when did they start designing? Do you know, Brian, offhand?
I don't know, but the two former parks directors kind of came up with the whole concept. And originally, the part that's right in front of cottages was supposed to go along the lake and behind cottages, but it would require a bridge. And so when the parks director had submitted the cost estimate, it was too expensive. The cost estimate didn't include that, and that's why it had to be rerouted in front of cottages.
So it sounds like it was a set-up failing plan from the get-go. When you get to a point that you gotta build a bridge or put people on the highway, you don't put them on the highway. So I probably sound stern about this, but you know, we've wasted money along the way, and I sure hope we learn from this.
We did. Prior planning is a wonderful thing.
It kinda works. And when someone does come to you with something that you're gonna put people on the road, you gotta say, no, we're not gonna spend that money to engineer it. We're gonna find another way. Thank you.
We'll call that BTW, that's before tree ward, is
Yes,
that
it
all right?
was.
Okay, so that's kind of tough to get beat up on things that happened before you
Oh,
got there.
absolutely, and I didn't mean it that way.
No, you
but-
don't. I
not at
know
all.
that. I'm kidding
No
him.
offense taken.
He needed to be poked a little bit there. But any other comments or questions? Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you. You guys are doing a good job. Okay, waste collection. Who's doing this?
I am. Before we get started tonight, everyone's been receiving their carts, and I know there's been a lot of questions. And so, Mayor, you and I discussed this last week, and one of the things that I wanted to bring forward, we had hoped, and we still want people to, if they can, try to utilize the 96-gallon carts for 30 days and see if it works. However, we've had multiple individuals contact us who are elderly and just cannot negotiate it, from street to house and back. And so in talking with the mayor, we've formulated a form. We're asking people that if they are going to have a problem and they do need a smaller cart, instead of waiting until August 26th, starting tomorrow, to go ahead and give us a call at City Hall, and we will start putting that list together to be able to provide that exchange of carts for people. And so we'll need names, addresses, phone numbers, and they'll be asked two questions. They'll be asked, one, if they've got a disability that makes them unable to be able to move it back and forth, or such a large cart, and the other one will be if they're elderly and unable to maneuver it as well. We're very sensitive to that. I talked to a woman about a week ago, 78 years old. She says, it's not that I don't want to, I just can't. And we understand that. So just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to go ahead and move that up and start that tomorrow.
Can I get a question in real quick before we get in too far, before I forget it? My neighbor, she's in Foxwood right now, and I was talking to her son-in-law that was taking care of her estate. They didn't give him a can, but she had the doctor's excuse before.
Oh, she was on the hardship.
She's on the hardship, so is it automatic those people that had the hardship, are they already still considered to be? Sheila, do you know that answer?
The people that were hardships were automatically getting the 48 gallon, yeah.
Okay, so that was my question is that, and I know I forget.
And so if somebody else moves into that home and they need a larger
Yeah.
cart, we can do that exchange as well. And just give us a call and let us know.
Okay, let's keep going.
Or utilities@belton.org. Okay. So, at the risk of being redundant, this is the report that we have. It's the City Council information form, and I am going to go through this entire document. Tonight's information that you'll have in front of you will be to approve the ordinance awarding contract for solid waste disposal as we outlined within our RFP to WCA. On May 16th, 2019, the City Council voted to cancel the current solid waste contract with Jim's Disposal effective on July 19th and approve the issuance of requests for proposals for a new solid waste vendor to commence the week of July 22nd, which is why this item is on for a double read tonight. In addition, on May 16th, the City Council authorized myself to purchase the 96-gallon carts, one for each resident currently eligible for trash. Those carts began being delivered on Monday of last week and are continuing through this week. If anybody has an issue with those carts or they have a damaged cart, on occasion somebody will say, hey, my wheel's wompy. We called the company, they've been right out the same day or the following day and have repaired those. So please don't hesitate to call City Hall and we will get those repaired for you. On the bottom of the information form, you will see that there's some information there. We had a total of 6 companies respond to the RFP. 3 were responsive, 2 replied with no bids, and 1 of the 6 was deemed to be non-responsive, and that they did not follow the directions nor complete appropriate documents as required within the RFP. The top 3 that you'll see there, Constable Sanitation, this is for solid waste and yard waste only, is $13.45. WCA was $13.81, and I will say that their original bid was at $14.26, but through negotiations, they have brought down their rate. And then Republic was at $19.55. Casey Disposal, who was non-responsive and their price is not considered, was at, I believe, $12.71. I will get that information for you, Sheila. If you can look that up for me, that would be very helpful. And so the bids that we had this evening, we ended up narrowing those down to WCA and Republic because those are the only two companies that actually had municipal experience. So we brought those two individuals in, those two firms, and we interviewed them to find out additional information about their approach to business. The reason why we looked at WCA is they have a proven capacity and resources to satisfactorily and effectively provide services for municipal operations. On their solid waste, they provide automated pickup of city-provided 96-gallon carts at a negotiated rate of $13.81, with all the trash fitting into the cart for a one-time pass. Should customers desire or need an additional cart or have additional trash, they will have an additional tipping fee of $4 for that additional cart. Their original rate was at $5. That was negotiated down.
Council, excuse me 1 second. If you have a point, we'll come back with questions. Be jotting down where you have questions. We'll come back over them when she's done, all right? Sorry.
That's okay. As we talked about, each cart, each resident was provided with a 96-gallon cart except for the hardships, which were provided with the 48-gallon. And starting effective tomorrow, even though this document says the week of August 26th, it'll actually be effective tomorrow, but we will start taking calls to be able to provide that change out for people. There'll be a monthly charge of $1.80 for the carts, included in the monthly solid waste fee, each month for the cart. Once the carts have been paid, those, as you'll recall, the city got a loan for those, and those are amortized over 3 years. The fee will be reduced, but however, I will be asking at that time in 3 years for a small amount be recommended to remain for future maintenance and necessary cart purchases due to the growth and replacement that will need to be had. In talking with the haulers, they have recommended to retain a 10% of the quantity that we ordered or the number of customers that we have in our yard, because that's the number of turnover that we will see every year. As for yard waste, WCA will provide year-round weekly collection of to 10 properly bagged and bundled yard waste. That's included in the cost of their solid waste of $13.81 per month. The yard waste must be placed in recyclable paper bags. Bundled items are limbs that are not exceeding 3 feet in length and 18 inches in diameter. Yard waste will be picked up on the normal solid waste day for residents. Dirt and rocks are not allowed as yard waste. In addition, if individuals have additional trash or yard waste just on occasion and don't want the extra cart, additional waste tags can be purchased. There's a sheet of 5 that can be purchased from the city. That pass-through account cost to the citizens of 5 tags will be $6.50, and that's what we will be paying WCA directly for those tags. So if on occasion somebody might have an extra bag, they might want to have a sheet of tags they can take and put on there, that it also works for yard waste. As for recycling, due to the unsustainability of curbside recycling, it is the recommendation of staff for the city to no longer provide curbside service. However, should you choose to consider recycling, a city-staffed recycling center could be established. This recycling center would separate items by commodity, like aluminum, cardboard, plastic, or tin, so as to eliminate contamination and increase the quality of recycling to help facilitate acceptance at a designated recycling facility. Due to the volatility in the recycling industry, WCA would work closely with the city to provide current market information as to what commodities are accepted within the facility in order to guide the type of recycling accepted at the center. It's the recommendation of staff, again, to suspend the recycling until January of 2020 to allow time for trash and yard waste contract implementation. In the meantime, it would allow staff the time to research and bring back to the council the criteria needed to set up a city-staffed recycling center. Exact location is yet to be determined. I had hoped to be able to provide one location with another governmental agency. However, it doesn't look like that may be able to be worked out after all. We've had additional conversations. But I haven't given up the ghost yet, still working on it, if that's the direction the city council so chooses. The cost for a city-staffed recycling center would add anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50 per month to each customer invoice. The cost is contingent upon the location and the setup charges. So for example, if we're able to use an area that is already have a fence around it, it already has a gate, we would be able to utilize that location and just have WCA bring the recycling bins to that location. We would set hours, we would have it manned. So really in that situation, all we would have is the cost of the person. However, if we have to take a city site and prepare it, we would have to put in fencing and a gate, clear the area, and finding a site within the city is going to be difficult because, for example, our Barn Street location is considered a residential area and isn't really set up for recycling. So it's making a recycling center a little bit more difficult, so looking at other facilities would have to occur. And our next step would be to contact the county to determine if maybe there's another area there. Work with Mid-America Regional Council. They have solid waste grants that we could possibly look at a county recycling facility. There's actually already one located in Harrisonville at this time. So there's a lot of what-if scenarios that go with that. Nothing is set in stone. This additional amounts would also allow for the tipping cost of $295 per 30-yard recycling bin when it's full, and the additional staff person to man the center. For bulky items, residents will be allowed one bulky item at the curb per month. The exact schedule for bulkies is still to be communicated to all customers for when it's scheduled. Additional bulky, we'll talk about that under special item pickup. Items can be scheduled for a pickup of a fee. So what we're really asking is that individuals would contact WCA, let them know when they have something to be picked up. And while in their contract, they will not pick up white goods. That would include like a washer or a dryer or a freezer or a refrigerator, especially the freezer and the refrigerator has to have the Freon removed. They would call their scavenger people to see if because there's always an interest for that, and have those individuals try to come and pick it up before they would come and pick it up at a fee. In addition, the city will continue to co-sponsor the Household Hazardous Waste Day on an annual basis in conjunction with the city of Raymore. And as you'll recall, the city of Belton and Raymore share that. We swap that every other year. Last year was in Belton. This year it's in Raymore. This year it will be Saturday, September 7th. It's at Eagle Glen Intermediate School located at 100 South Fox Ridge Road in Raymore, Missouri. There's also going to be a notice coming out. Grandview has their date coming up. I don't recall that date exactly. And Nadia Carbolo from Mid-America Regional Council and their Solid Waste Division, she is sending that information. People from Belton and Raymore, and anyone that participates in the program can use any of the other facilities, and since Grandview's nearby, that would be an option if people want to use it sooner, and that is coming up. We will be posting that on our city Facebook page. As for special item pickup, residents are eligible to have items picked up on an as-needed basis for an additional cost if it's outside their one item per month. The cost will be based on material and volume. They would contact WCA directly for quote to schedule service, and they'll be billed independently for that service. Again, if the item is scavenged prior to the pickup, the resident will not be charged. As for hardships, we have that hardship program in place now, and that continues forward. Individuals will need to provide personal service provided from the home front to the curb and back to the home front at the end would need to provide customer show proof of from their doctor that they are unable to physically move their trash cart. We do have existing customers in place, and those will just continue. If there are new hardship customers, that is the process that they will need to follow and provide that to our utility staff person and our staff at the front at the utility window. As for holidays, WCA recognizes 3 holidays per year: Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. On the weeks where those days fall, the remaining week's trash days will move back one day from when the holiday occurs. So for example, if we're looking at the pickup days being 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, so on Thanksgiving week, when Thanksgiving falls on a Thursday, Thursday moves to Friday, Friday moves to Saturday. WCA and the City of Belton will work together to provide a complete plan to customers. Tom Kaufman is here, who is the municipal representative. He'll be coming forward in a minute to share more information, but it includes a custom web page for the City of Belton via the WCA website, an introductory flyer or postcard to all customers detailing information on collection day, yard waste, additional waste tags, bulky info, the holiday schedule, and with just general information about WCA. We'll also have information on the City of Belton's webpage, and we're working on an interactive map for customers to determine the day of service. They have finished that routing map. We are fine-tuning it now, and we hope that we'll be working with our GIS person, Ryan, based upon the conclusion of this evening's vote, going forward, to be able to get that information out online. People would be able to go to the city site, be able to put in their address, and it'll tell them what day of the week their service falls. Again, residential pickup in Belton will occur 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, with WCA providing a route map. I think he'll have that for us this evening, if not already, and I can get that to you as well. The term of the contract is 3 years. It would commence on July 22nd. The contract allows for two-year extensions for a total of 7 years beyond the initial 4 years additional beyond the initial 3-year period if both parties agree. For the annual rate adjustment after the initial contract year, the consumer price index would be used to determine any increases that would occur for the following year. The city would be notified by March 1st of each year of any increases that may occur, effective on the initial service day of July 22nd. If not notified by that date, the price would hold for the next year. For additional information, in May of 2019, local haulers were contacted to provide a sampling of current market rates for a new customer. We have that additional rates. Those rates range anywhere from and this is for trash only, from $23.32 to $33 a month. WCA, their call-in rate is $71 quarterly, and that's for trash. There is an additional amount required for recycling or for yard waste. Waste Management, who no-bid this item, when called for their market rate, they also had an environmental service charge of an additional $5 to $10. Staff recommends the award of the contract to WCA with the solid waste and yard waste at $13.81. The cart cost would be $1.80. Additional cart cost would be 90 cents. An additional tipping fee for an extra cart is $4. And not to forget, but there is a sheet of 5 interchangeable trash yard waste tags at $6.50. So the trash and yard waste only for 1 cart would be $15.61. Trash and yard waste for 2 carts would be $20.51. And then contingent upon the decision of the council whether you want to look at a recycling center, it could range from $17.11 to $18.11, and with 2 carts, anywhere from $22 to $23. I do want to share with you that the list of references that I received for WCA were very positive. We talked to City of Platte Woods, Missouri, City of Smithville, Missouri. Kansas City Regional Purchasing Co-op has a cooperative contract that was put in place that Fairway, Westwood, and Roland Park all participate in. The City of Riverside, the City of Lake Winnebago, and the City of Peculiar. These, in general, were their comments. WCA has provided extremely positive service over the last 2 years. I will state, however, that they all noted that there was an issue when Town & Country sold to them and stopped providing service. However, they stated when WCA came in and established their own staff, customer service improved greatly, stating there have been no problems beyond the occasional truck going down or unexpected driver illness. Noting when there is an issue of this nature, WCA's communication with the city is immediate. Further stating their customer service is very good and the interaction between their drivers and the community is positive. I asked on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high, and all of them, how would they rank them? The majority were 8. I got 2 9s. And there was none that were below an 8. I was very cognizant of the fact that what I'd heard from WCA in the past when the city first looked at solid waste and was looking at the contract, some of the background comments that were made, and the concern that they had about customer service. And Tom and his associated staff will be coming to the podium in just a second to talk about that additional information. One of the last things that I wanted to say about in the references that I talked about, they spoke very highly of the local representatives and the local delivery coordinator that oversees the drivers and ensures customer service, stating that if they're not calling, they're stopping by, checking constantly to see how their customer service is, and that they also stated that when they do have something with a truck that goes down, that's why the importance of the WCA website and notification of us as well, so that we can immediately get that information out and post it to let people know that there's been a delay due to the truck being down or due to inclement weather and the landfills are closed, and that when they should see that service. So they've really worked on that level of communication. And Tom, if you don't mind, if you'd come forward to the podium now, I'd like to introduce you to the council and as well as your staff. This is Tom Kaufman with WCA. He is the municipal representative for WCA. One of the other things to talk about here that I didn't at the time is that their transfer station where all of our trash is going is located in Harrisonville, Missouri, with both the associates that we would be dealing directly with, Don Cartwright, and I believe that's Larry Kissick with you, are from Cass County with Larry, I believe being a Belton resident. So.
My primary residence is in Berkshire Estates, and I own several rentals on the Over Lacey Estates.
Okay, great. So didn't mean to steal your thunder there, Tom, but beyond that, is there any information that I've missed or any other things that you would like to bring to the attention of the council?
Just a couple of things.
Okay.
I made a bunch of notes that I'm going to dispense with because
Okay.
I don't want to drone on. Larry, he's our secret weapon. Don, he's great. Between the three of us, I don't know, we each have more than 25 years in the industry. We got more than 300 employees in this market. We're set up with the experience and the resources to provide the kind of efficient, modern collection system that you guys need. You guys probably have been dying for, actually. And that includes, prior to your current hauler, there was another hauler that kind of let you down, I think, WCA. But those guys are all gone, and we've got a new system, a new group, and we've had great success. We put out our sustainability report yesterday, and we're pretty proud of, this was our safest year, 2018, that we've had in the company's history, and that's got a lot to do with these guys here. I do want to address, I know 96-gallon carts can seem kind of scary, they're big, but the footprint of them on the floor of the garage is identical to a 65. They just hold a lot more trash, but they don't really take up any more space. But obviously some people aren't set up to haul them around or push them and pull them, so we get that. We're not in the business of hurting anybody, you know. Also, there's probably some questions about recycling. We saw an article today in one of our industry magazines. The city of Boston signed a new processing agreement with a company that took their current processing rate from $70 a ton to $125 a ton. And for us, that was a breathtaking number. It's just in flux. And I know that there's a lot of communities right now that if they had the chance that Belton had, they'd take it. They just like push pause and just wait and see if this stabilizes, what happens next, and go forward when it's a little more stable, I think. We have certain materials we just can't move. I mean, they have negative value. We pay people to haul them away for us. So that's just the facts.
And Tom, do you mind? I'm going to interject here. One of the arrangements in the proposal is that and the reason why I referred to recycling in the way that I did is that if there's items that they're having to pay to take, that ends up coming back to the city. And that's why I in our conversations that we talked about pretty lengthy is that we would want to have a very close relationship to talk about what are the markets that are actually taking recycling, like aluminum, so that we're able to really be able to promote that and be able to take clean items and be able to enjoy some of the a rebate that would come along that could be passed to the city.
And that's part of the beauty of having a site like that, is if for nothing else than a stopgap, because the cans are going to be segregated by material. So we're going to be able to take a container of cardboard, tip it off. We don't have to sort it. We know it's good, clean stuff. Your guys are going to be there. Your staff is going to make sure for, plastics, whatever. Because right now at our MRF, 25% of what comes across our floor is trash. It's the contamination rate's just out of control. So by segregating materials at sites, that's going to be a great help. And then, maybe it's not time to take a certain material. We can put that on hold. Now, I know we don't really have an agreement yet, but these guys, in advance of the vote, they've got all the routes for the 5 days. I know that our attorney's been working with the city attorney, back and forth with some language. I've worked on a communications piece, and then tomorrow morning I have a meeting with the public relations firm we use to kind of fine-tune the messaging and to make it easier to understand, because I didn't do as good a job as they will. And as soon as we have an agreement, we're ready to make the phone call and lease the trucks we need so that we can start on the 22nd. It's a quick ramp up and a quick turnaround time for us, but we can do that. And then once that's in the pipeline, then we're going to deal with manufacturers and spec up the new additions to the fleet for the Belton route going forward. And then start picking up some trash and getting out in the community and becoming visible and, you know, try to earn a reputation for reliability and approachability. So, and with that, I'll be approachable for any questions you might have.
Who's first? Councilman Clark.
Just have a couple questions for you. How many trucks you gonna have running on a daily basis here?
Two trashing and probably one or two for yard waste.
Okay. I had a couple questions on one tip. 95% of the time, one tip's fine. Holidays like Christmas, one tip might not be fine. Is there any exceptions to that, or is that, we talked about that?
That's the purpose of the extra tags, so that if you're going to have a couple extra bags, you can have the tags, throw the tag on there, put the bag at the ground, and they'll take them.
Well, because I thought we were told you couldn't have anything on the ground. Everything had to be in the...
Right, that's what the tags are for.
Okay.
Everything needs to go into the cart, and then if they do have extra, though, they can put that tag on that bag at the cart, and they'll take that.
Because sometimes it's boxes, or I guess you got to put everything in a bag, is what you're saying.
I need clarification on that. I don't know.
We prefer bags.
Okay. Well, it used to be cardboard boxes you put in a recycling bin, but,
Right.
can't do that anymore, so...
Yeah.
Questions? I've got some. Go ahead, Councilwoman Davidson.
I have a few, so bear with me. If a resident purchases a second bin, because I guess they're going to use it occasionally, would they have to pay for the second tip? Would they pay for a second tip on days that they don't actually need a second tip and didn't need to use their second cart? Does that make sense?
That's a great question. I believe that they would, because it's going to be once they have that second cart, it's a set rate within. It'd be
Right.
too difficult to be able to determine from a business perspective whether it's out or not.
Right, okay, I'll let her know. And then we spoke earlier about the two circumstances under which somebody would receive the hardship. One of them was elderly, in addition to the disability, so would an elderly person have to provide a doctor's note as well?
That's for the hardship. There's a difference between wanting a smaller cart and the hardship program.
Okay,
What we're asking is, we're asking able-bodied people to keep their 96-gallon cart, whether, I know a lot of people were very concerned whether or not it would fit in their garage. What we're looking at is the 65-gallon or the 48-gallon carts for individuals who really can't maneuver it. And so we're asking for people that if they're elderly or if they're disabled, to the point that, they just can't maneuver a big one like that, to let us know. And we're going to take their word for it, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, for a hardship to come to the front of the house and pick it up, yes, they will have to have a doctor's excuse for that.
okay. Let's see here. In the bid, under the column that talked about curbside recycling, the entry was negotiable. So how do we approach that going forward, or how is that negotiated going forward?
Looking at the recycling market, once the council believes you're ready to want to look at curbside recycling again, we would have a discussion with WCA as to what that additional rate would look like.
And I'll just say from a legal perspective, it would probably look like an amendment to the contract to specifically call out for recycling, because it's in the contract as drafted, but it's in there as a selection for in the future or possible.
Right.
So if, and again, this is more their area, but if, recycling stabilized and it went back to 5 years ago, that market, then we would probably have conversations with both of them and then work out what the new rate is and come back with an amendment for the city council to approve.
Right, and I think when I talked to Tom about it, one of the reasons why he put negotiable on there, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but based upon our conversation, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that because the market is so volatile, that I think they're very encouraged more at a recycling center than they would be at curbside because of the single stream and the amount of contamination and the cost factor that goes into it. It's not cost effective.
Right, I just wonder, by not having, and I understand why we can't negotiate that up front. We don't really have a lot of ammunition as a city if we're already locked into a 3-year contract to, if recycling were to stabilize within that 3 years, to go back to them and negotiate a rate because they already have us, you know what I mean?
I mean, based on that comment, what we could do, and it would be obviously subject to approval by WCA, is maybe strengthen up the language to say that, the city, once markets stabilize, we could automatically trigger recycling and trigger the need for an amendment. I will say that's kind of tricky based on, again, Tom, feel free to jump in. We don't know if it'll be this year, next year, 3 years down the road. So actually having like any sort of price in there, I think would.
That's just so unknowable. And then also the price would be driven by frequency. Do you want to do it every week? Do you want to do it every other week? It's just such a moving target right now. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, and I will tell you that one of the other respondents bid, they did bid recycling, and it was $9 a month, and that would, with the option to adjust that quarterly because of how volatile the market is.
And then I have one more, well, it's really just a statement. The 5 days a week is kind of disappointing to me, just because I know the biggest I was not here when we passed the ordinance, but I think just with up to 40% of the residents not having, trash service was a big motivating factor. I think also for people not having trash trucks out 5 days a week was a motivating factor. So for me personally, it's just a little disappointing to see.
The good part on, I'm going to be a Pollyanna for a moment, but the good part is that they are in set areas. They're in a set, it's not like they're going all over the town. They're going to be in this section, and then they're going to be in this section. And that's where they will deliver. So it's not like they're going from here and then here and then here and then here. So they'll just have a set region.
And that's the only way that pretty much any hauler would be able to meet the deadline and the time that you guys need to have this accomplished.
I mean, I do realize that Jim's was pretty much out 5 days a week anyway.
Yeah, and well past.
Oh, good point.
Well, very late.
So
Yeah.
You noticed.
I'm done.
Councilman Lathrop, then Councilman Trutzel.
Well, I had some questions about the size of the trash. I've had a lot of calls about people that do not want this 96-gallon container, and I've talked to you about it. But just to clarify, the 48 they can get, to have a medical thing is to pick it up at the house and bring it back.
Right.
So any one of these 3 sizes they can use. So what really bothers me a little bit is why we chose the 96 instead of asking the people what they wanted and delivered to everybody, and then if they want the smaller one, we have to go back and change it.
Right.
That looks
Well,
like it's costly.
Yeah, what we looked at was trying to get them the largest cart that they could have because it would be a one tip, so that it would save them the additional cost of the $4.90 for tipping and the additional cart. So hoping to get a larger cart so that they could get all their trash into it.
But basically, the ones that are calling are the single households where they have one little bag
Well,
to win a month or a
some,
week.
yeah, some have a little bit more. They just don't want a big 96-gallon. And then I had one family that actually called and said, I know that you're saying that we can switch it out or I can get an additional one that's a 65 and 48, but I got a lot of trash. I need another 96-gallon. Can I get another one? Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some that need more than
Yeah.
one and need the 96.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that
Yep.
have a single house
And
that
that-
don't need it and don't want it.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, seemed like we're delivering one and then having to pick it up and deliver another one. And at the first thing I was reading, you was only going to get so many of the smaller size when they was out, you couldn't get a smaller one.
We're still there.
We're still there.
We're still there.
So if
independent, so we'll still take the names and assemble a list, and if, I'll bring that back to the council to determine if you're wanting to purchase additional carts to be able to help facilitate that need.
Okay. It just doesn't make sense to say, you're gonna use this whether you like it or not,
Yeah,
and you're gonna pay for it.
yeah. And driving through the city of Belton, there's a lot of trash on the side of the road.
Yeah.
So, when, on trash day, when people put out, so not everybody's disgruntled with a 96-gallon cart.
Okay. I just think it would
I
have been better
understand.
if we gave everybody the option to take the 96 or the 65 or whatever they wanted, and, go from there. I just thought that would be a better thing, and, anyway, that's all I had.
Councilman Truxell.
Just for clarification purposes, if it, in the future here, that we go with the separate bins for recycling, the fee, would it be applied to all people in the city?
Say that to me one more time, I'm so sorry.
Okay, what I'm saying is, the estimated cost is $1.50 to $2.50, okay? So, if we do recycling by the bins,
Oh, by the bins,
so everybody in the city would be charged the $1.50 or $2.50 or whatever it's gonna be?
Well, for, if you do curbside recycling,
No, this is with the bins. I assume this is where.
oh, the large bins, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you meant,
No, the large bins.
carts. Yeah, that would be an additional $1.50 to $2.50, depending upon
To all citizens.
all citizens.
Thank you.
Well, that'd be a great segue for me, then I'll come back on this side again. Recycling. Where can we take our recycling now?
Currently, there is a recycling center in Harrisonville, Missouri, and there's also Bridging the Gap in Kansas City. It's over on Red Bridge.
Okay, Councilman Van Winkle.
I just had a question about serial numbers on the cans. Are those recorded? And are those being used to identify which residence it belongs to? And-
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I've got several. I'm trying to
Tim
give,
Savage.
Tim had one? Go ahead, Tim.
I can wait.
No, it's,
I just soon wait.
oh, rascal you. Okay, I appreciate it. Because I don't know if I can remember everything. I got it written all over here. Okay, my question is to you all. The trash, we dump it in Harrisonville, we take ours, does it stay there or do you transport it?
It ends up in Sedalia, Missouri, at a landfill that we own.
So how many trucks get in a trailer or whatever? Is that cost effective or,
About 30 ton,
so how many trucks would that be?
3, 4, 5, just depends on what size goes in it.
How much trash did you get for numbers, would you think, on weight for Belton? And I'm sure you've already done that homework, or what do you expect?
I haven't looked at it, bud.
We looked at some tonnage numbers, but we opted just to overlook those numbers because we want to find out ourselves.
Were you gonna say something? You were
That-
leaning forward.
One of the things that I had talked with Mr. Kaufman about and WCA was when we looked at our tonnage, the reason why our rates are slightly higher than our neighboring community is because we do have more trash. The tonnage weights show a little bit higher. But after the first year, we've somewhat leveled off, and thus the ability for them to negotiate down their rate a little bit.
I got questions all over my sheets, I'm sorry. I mean, and this is fun. Did we talk about construction material? Can
No,
people?
I don't think so. But we don't accept.
I have a lot of people ask me about, can we throw in our big dumpsters, can they, the 96 gallons, can they put?
No, we don't accept C&D material. We collect regular, routine household trash.
Okay. I'm glad I got that out of my way. How much, and I'm asking you this, municipal experience, when we pick a place, when we pick our vendor here, how much does municipal experience?
Way on
Yeah,
the
on
evaluation.
on the decision.
Yeah, when we looked at this, that was one of our top factors. When you gauge your prior experience of the prior contract and you look at the experience of the vendor that we had, that was a glaring item there that they were just not able to grow and mature with the huge add-on of that many customers. And so when we looked at the new RFP, one of the things that we made really important was the ability to handle a large, over 7,000 customers in one fell swoop, to be able to take that on and be able to put the resources to it to provide adequate service. And so it took a high level of the evaluation beyond their background, their experience, number of years in business, the location. And the other part is because they're going to the transfer station in Harrisonville, how long will it take you to get there from here?
45 minutes round trip.
Versus, say, somebody's going from here to Sedalia.
Oh. You couldn't do that. You couldn't do that. You couldn't service this town on a direct haul basis to Sedalia
Or to Warrensburg?
or to Warrensburg.
Okay.
Wow. What a
So,
question.
so when we looked at that, we looked at where's our trash going to end up being so that they get it there and come back. Because, the trucks fill up. It's not like they do their entire route and they can do it in one truckload. The truck will get full, they'll take it to Harrisonville, and they'll come back and they'll continue their routes. And that's been part of the problem of our current current hauler, is that they're not able to provide good customer service by, they would leave and then not make note of where they'd left off. And then when they came back, whole areas are missed. And so we really need to be able to have somebody that's close by can come back and finish out that route.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll lean forward further. That was going to be a segue for one of my questions was, how many customer service people are going to respond? Are we going to call them? We're going to call, yeah.
Yeah.
What's going to go? Are they going to call the city at what time or what point, and who do they contact here at the city? You said utilities, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, utilities at belton.org. One of the things that we want to keep in-house is that customer service. Not that WCA would do this, as they've assured us and said, you really don't want to be in this business, let us take care of it for you. And we said, we really prefer to take our own calls from our citizens. We want to be able to handle what's happening. And then then that way we can document when those things are occurring to assure that they're getting the information from our citizens. A lot of our citizens are aware of getting a hold of utilities at belton.org or calling our main line to be able to get a hold of somebody to report a miss or a trash incident, so that then we turn around and we communicate with them. How many individuals do you have in your customer service department?
There'll be 8.
8?
8.
Okay.
And then your staff will have access to me, access to Larry, direct access to Jenny, who runs our customer service division. So, we're very accessible.
Okay.
What about our previous company? How many did they have?
I have no idea how many they actually had in location, but they had one person.
One person.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a good question.
They had-
I like that myself. Okay. I'll ask you guys too. Town and Country kind of had a black eye, that kind of thing. I'm not going to beat that bush too hard, but how many people are in the front office from Town and Country? Or
Not many.
okay.
I got here in July 23rd of 16, and I pretty much just cleaned house for the next year.
And I got here that same summer of 16 and went on an apology tour all around cities in 6 counties and took a beating everywhere I
Really?
went. So none of those guys are around anymore, though.
That's incredible. So, municipal pickups, we've got that. Our choice. Town and Country, that's good. And I guess I could ask this later when we go into the ordinance, but I might as well do it now because it's on my mind. I remember, I don't even know if you were here when we started talking about trash in the beginning. Why didn't we put trash on a ballot in the first place?
Your city attorney at that time, former city attorney, informed you that legally it was the council's responsibility to make that decision, and that the decision fell here at the dais.
Somebody else got questions? I can't read all my scribbling. Councilman Clark. Oh, I'm sorry, let Patrick, you were,
Well, no, I was just going, because we were saying Savage, so I was trying to help you.
okay, good.
I thought our first initial questions were just for the gentleman standing up here, so my other question is, reading the contract, it sounds like they have up until July 1st, but this contract takes effect July 22nd.
That's when service commences. The contract is in place once signatures.
I guess I'm trying to figure out how, if they tell us June 30th that they're gonna raise our rates July 1, and then all of a sudden we gotta tell our citizens that our rates are going up, I think there ought to be more of a lag time there.
They can't raise rates except on March 1st, so that date's already passed, so they couldn't raise them for the next year.
I thought it said in here July 1.
I do believe it's March. And then secondly, they can't raise the rates for the first year until the next calendar year. So the first time they could raise rates, whether it's July or March, would be July 2020. So they could not raise rates for this, what is called the initial term, or the first year of the initial term under the
I thought there was
contract.
something about the CPI index is what I was reading
That
in
would
here.
only be next year. That couldn't take
But
place.
it says in here July 1st.
So the initial bid has to be effective for the first year of the initial term.
Okay.
So there is no ability to raise the rate for this first
Let's go to
year.
the second year.
They could, because that's how the
Yeah,
contract.
but are we gonna do it July 1st and expect, and they can tell us June 30th they're raising our rates, and then July 1st we gotta tell our residents that, or we're gonna
The-
have more?
My understanding is our deadline to let you know that we want a rate increase is March 1.
March 1, and then it doesn't become effective until
So-
January 1 of the next year.
Okay, I must have misread that in this contract then.
A 9-month lag.
My next question, I've had people ask me about what happened to our fines. We fined the last company, and we're gonna, hopefully we don't find you guys at all, for not picking up trash. Where's that money?
That money is being used to pay for the additional trash that, bins that, and yard dumpsters that we've had to bring in, for our internal city staff to, pick up trash, because we've been picking up a lot of trash in Public Works.
And
Go ahead.
I'd also note that the fines under this current contract, there's actually a double fine, thanks to Finance Director Ernzen's drafting and pleading to include it. So there is the first initial $150 fine, and then if it continues past that period, there's a second additional $150 fine, which I'm sure Tom can say that
To
they won't
encourage
be.
positive customer service.
We got Larry, we're fine.
I pay a $150 fine. I live down the street. I'll go get it in my truck.
Okay. Good to know.
You got new trucks coming too?
Yeah, we're gonna order them as soon as we get the green light from the governing body.
You were gonna say something. Councilman Savage.
I've got a couple of questions on that. You'd mentioned on several occasions the negotiations or negotiated with these folks to get the prices down. Did you try to make every effort to negotiate with the other two contractors that was brought in to consider this?
No, when I looked at, we brought it back to 2 individuals that we brought in because of their municipal service, and we only negotiated with the one that, because of their location, being close to home and being able to, what we thought provided the best proposal when they came in with the interviews.
You also made pretty strong mention about the transfer station and where the others might have to go. Did you confirm where the other two were gonna have to go for the transfer station that they were gonna use?
I know, I'll have to get back to you on that. I know one is in Warrensburg, and the other one is, I think, in Kansas.
Warrensburg and somewhere in Kansas.
I believe that's where Republics is at.
And I know that one of them is taking their trash trucks individually down to Warrensburg and back. So that means like you're loading tractor trailers?
Well, they're using transfer station. They're bailing and stacking, right?
Don runs the transfer station, he can point it out, but that's no.
Takes it in the tipping floor, we dump it on the floor, then it's loaded into transfer trailers. From there it goes to Sedalia. The MRF is a whole different separate entity, and you know, that's what the bales are that are outside on the ground. It's all the recycle that we can't
Oh,
get rid
okay.
of.
I don't, a couple of comments that was made about the choice of putting it out for the people or not. You know, I could talk about that a long time. It don't do any good at this point, but I think we had choices, and we had a choice to decide whether to make the decision here or not. And I don't know, I personally felt like that I felt a little bit pushed on that. I'm gonna stop right there on that. As far as the, something else that was brought up, I didn't write it down, I guess. If I think of it, I'll speak on it in a little while. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be coming up with it in a minute. Councilman Lathrop?
I had one question of you. You said we prefer to have the customer service to, all calls come in to here. Are we gonna have to hire extra people, and how much do you think that would cost?
No, we currently provide that service already, and we've been really, really busy with that. And the reason why we prefer to keep it in-house is just to ensure customer service and that we're able to appropriately track in case penalties have to be assessed.
Yeah, but the thing
We
I'm
know
getting
first
to,
thing.
we do it now, but I know we had to have some extra people answering the phones when stuff got bad.
Yeah, and that's part of the, that's why it moved from this building over to City Hall so that we could use our current utility billing staff to be able to help with those calls.
But that's, I just wondering how much that will add to the 1561 cost.
Yeah, no, the 1560,
Even if it's paid through the city here, the people of Belton end up paying that money some way or another.
okay.
Mayor,
Councilman Savage?
just a small piece on, it's been brought up 2 or 3 times, or I probably wouldn't speak on it, but when this company, WCA, took over the company that I was very much involved in and using, it was, as said a little bit here, but it was a horrible experience, to the point that I literally had to pick up 70-some families or 80-some families myself. So I just want that stated that I wasn't proud at all. And I realize you all may or may not be the same folks, but it's the same name.
No, we agree. No, and we totally copped to that. That happened, and we acknowledge it.
Now, and there was no way out. That was the problem. There was just absolutely no solution. So that even made it, compounded even worse.
Any other comments or questions? Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Any staff, you have anything that you want to chime in on? Anybody? Does the fire, does the police, anybody? Going once? Okay. Thank you, folks. This adjourns our work session. And we're going to call our regular meeting to order at this time. We'll have Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Clark.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mayor Davis,
Here?
Councilman Savage,
Here.
Councilman Lathrop,
Here.
Councilman Trutzel,
Here.
Councilman Van Winkle,
Here.
Councilman Clark,
Here.
Councilman Finn,
Here.
Councilwoman Davidson, Councilwoman Peak.
Here.
Thank you. Consent agenda, one motion, non-debatable, to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for item be taken from consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilman
I'd like
Lathrop,
to pull C.
pulling C. That's the motion, right? Subliminal accepted. Okay, that will pull C. Any others? Seeing none, we'll vote on the others. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passed. Okay, C, a motion recognizing the, boy, mine's blurry. Recognizing the submittal and acceptance of the annual TXRH SID FI 2000 budget. And what's your question, or what's your discussion?
Question is, I want to know what this is. My packet didn't have anything in it on it, and I don't know what TXRH and CID and FYE mean.
Oh, dear. I'm looking at Carolyn right now, but basically, before we get into what specific, the CID is a community improvement district. And so once a year, the community improvement districts have to bring their budget before the council to just make you aware of them. So you would be acknowledging that, yes, you've received their budget, and that's what this is. Carolyn?
It's the Texas Roadhouse CID.
I think it's page 38.
Well, I think there was a mess up on some of the ones that I printed.
My
Well, they've got the
packet
right
didn't
ones
have
now.
a page 38 in it.
Right, that's what I thought.
Oh,
I had nothing on this whatsoever in my packet, and I want to know, I didn't know what these numbers, but that says Texas Roadhouse, that's what we're doing there? Okay, it makes sense now.
Okay.
So we're all right?
That's fine.
So I'd entertain a motion again.
so moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to pass, the motion recognizing submittal and acceptance of the annual TXRA SID 5 and 2020 budget. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Okay. No personal appearances. I've got to get my computer down further. We're at ordinances. Golly, that's a long way down there. I'll just read it from this. Okay. A motion approving both readings of bill number 2019-37.
An ordinance approving the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission road relinquishment agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to relinquish the Belton I-49 Outer Road, 155th Street to 163rd Street to the city of Belton once improvements are completed.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Councilman Finn.
I had a question on this one, Celia. So they're gonna turn this road over to us, and we just spent like $80,000 on Scantech to go through and look at all of our roads. What measures are we gonna take on this road specifically to make sure that they're building it to spec?
So, North Point hired a geotech, and our engineer also did to find out what was out there. And, there's sections that there's a lot of concrete, and then there's varying sections of asphalt. So they went ahead and did that and made a pavement recommendation of what we can leave in the ground and what we need to add. So we're gonna build it to our standard.
Then let me ask you then, so this is gonna be the main thoroughfare for trucks entering that property, is that correct?
Correct.
So there'll be a lot of heavy equipment running across that road, and so they're prepared to beef this road up so that it's not going to fall apart in 3 years?
So what the geotech did was, well, first of all, the developer submitted a traffic study that estimated the truck usage and the vehicles. And then based on that, there's a calculation you use, and a geotech recommended what needed to be out there to support that traffic.
Great. All right, thanks.
Oh, that's a good question, though. Yes.
Just looking at this map, Mayor, I'm assuming that coming out on 163rd Street is going to be at that stoplight where it cuts between Cornerstone, or whatever it's called on the,
So right after the interchange, that first left, yeah, I think it is a,
oh, so it'd be the first left after the highway?
yeah.
I don't even know what that
There's a
outer road's
median
called.
opening there off 163rd.
Okay.
Road.
I just know there's a stoplight, so they won't be able to go left there at all. They have to go right to get on the highway.
Right.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Is that gonna be the main entrance point, or are we gonna, are we pushing them off 155th Street first, or are we trying to get them, or is there a main entry for the trucks?
Well, we did talk about that, and
I guess they can't turn left if they come on, and
we're in, go ahead.
they can't turn left if they come in off 163rd Street then, right?
Yes, they can. It's a median
Oh, there is a
opening
turn,
there.
okay.
So the traffic study looked at that, and they estimated more traffic, and I don't have the exact percentages in front of me, coming from the north, because really that's where they're estimating a lot of the traffic and trucks will come, and so it's likely that they'll get off at that exit. They don't go any farther than they need to. So the trucks coming from the south will get off at 163rd.
Is this something we're gonna make 4 lanes, or is this still gonna be a 2-lane road with supposedly 1,400 people working there?
A 2-lane road.
Oh,
And the volumes support that. the estimated traffic volumes, as well as, you know, a lot of people will also use this, you know, in the neighborhoods to get onto I-49. And so, based on the traffic volumes, it supports a 2-lane.
But Celia, it's wider than what's there now.
Correct. Oh, yes. Right now, it's about 18 to 20 feet wide, and we're going to build
I just
it
assume when
to
that thing's
24.
filled up and they're supposedly having 1,400 jobs there, and you're saying residents are gonna use this road, that it's gonna be a little too much for 2 lanes. I think it ought to be at least, you know, 4 lanes, in my opinion, but
So the breaking point about when you think you need 4 lanes is, this is just a ballpark, about 15,000 vehicles per day, and the traffic volume estimated isn't close to that.
okay.
Carolyn, I'm going to put you on the spot here. With, how many jobs have they changed that to already from 1,400?
It's still anticipated about 1,400 at this
1,400?
time, but it's
Okay.
important to know that not everybody will be working at the same time. There's going to be a lot of different shifts, so that will help with the traffic as
Good
well.
point.
Mayor,
Sir?
I have one more question. Councilman Clark raised another question in my mind, as far as the traffic. That is important, because we don't really want a lot of traffic on 163rd as far as 53-foot semi-trailers coming through there. Is there any way that we can coordinate with them and indicate to them that we prefer that their workers come in with the tractor trailers from the north side? And I know we can't guarantee that, but is there any way that we can work with them on that to kind of teach them our process, how we'd like that to happen?
We could discuss that with them.
I think that'd be very preferable to bring them in on County Line Road. And honestly, it's gonna be better for the drivers too. And if it's difficult for them to get in and out right there, they're gonna learn to come from the north. So if they could just be taught that from the beginning, that's where they wanna go. That might help us as well, alleviate some of that heavy traffic off 163rd.
Well, I think just workers, I mean, using 163rd Street to cut over to Raymore or whatever, I mean, it's gonna make that road pretty heavy. Hopefully the chief, the police will be over there watching that when it's actually said and done, because we do have a school right there on that main street.
Councilman Savage?
No.
Councilman
Good.
Lathrop, you got anything? Anybody? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes.
Move for second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second for second reading. A motion approving,
We need an all in favor,
okay, all in
please.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And that one fails. On one fail, I'm saying. So with the
Correct.
motion passes.
Yes.
So A motion approving the second reading of bill number 2019-37.
An ordinance approving the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Road Relinquishment Agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to relinquish the Belton I-49 Outer Road, 155th Street to 163rd Street, to the city of Belton once improvements are completed.
Present.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Sir?
Mayor, my comment, I vote no on the second reading just because I think if we have citizens that live over in that area, they should have a chance to come and speak about this. I'm not against it at all, but I just think, you know, I don't think this is something that needs to be pushed forward at this present time for a second reading personally, but I'm not against it. I think it's valuable to our neighborhoods and in that area, but I just think we ought to start looking at this differently, and if it's not immediately needed, I think we need to push it off another time, allow residents to come talk.
Why are we doing a double read tonight?
In this situation, we are trying to keep pace with the grant that we've gotten to finish out the outer road and work with the scheduling of the completion of those buildings and when they're going to open,
And,
get construction complete.
and to add to that, so we're going at this pretty aggressively to try to, you know, get the road built before the buildings are open. And so MoDOT's really working with us too. And they have requested that we have this agreement right away because we can't bid the project until they have all these agreements in place. So they requested that, you know, we could do it tonight if possible.
Discussion. Councilman Finn?
Celia, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been probably a couple months. Haven't we gone over what this road looks like, the width of it, what the curbing looks like, the crowning of the road, the drainage. Didn't we go over that before? And I definitely want our citizens to be heard. If there's a question or concern about it, yet I think we've covered it and we've gone over what this road is going to look like. My questions to you tonight were to make sure that they're going to build it properly, and if we're going to ensure that that happens, then I'm comfortable with this.
And we're really approving it, and we're improving it, because right now it's narrow, and, you know, it's already not holding up in certain areas because MoDOT didn't, you know, they had to share responsibilities all over the state, so it really needs mill and overlay and more, and so we're really not changing the road, we're improving it to support any traffic. And right now, it doesn't connect from 155th to 162nd, so that will provide that connection.
You can get through there. Just saying.
Right?
Good point.
I mean, I think it's a needed project, and like I said, I'm not against it at all. I think it's gonna be of value to our residents in that area to cut through instead of using VC or one of those other streets that cut through. So I think for non-residential, it's gonna be nice for us to cut through there, especially if there's accidents on 49. But I just think we as a staff need to do this in a more efficient manner to where residents, if they do have questions, they can come up and talk. That's the only thing I'm asking.
Councilman Savage, you were next.
So MoDOT's wanting to get rid of this. That's always their idea on these outer roads. They want to get rid of them. And we're taking it on, and there's been a lot of concern about how it's going to be built, and I think that's very valid. I think what's been said is very good. But is this developer going to be contributing, since they are going to be the primary user of this road from here on out? Are they going to be contributing, or can they be made to contribute a road tax specifically for that road? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if it tears up, citizens of Belton are going to have to pay for that, the whole citizens. So is there a direct piece, or is there some consideration to that in the fact that they'll be primary users of this road, or can there be?
Right. To complete this road, MoDOT, and that's why they'll relinquish the road once the improvements are made. So MoDOT's providing a grant for half of it, and the other half is being paid for by the developer.
That I understand, but now we got to maintain it. 10 years down the road, we've got to be able to maintain it, which there was a lot of concern over here. I don't know honestly what kind of taxes is being generated by this developer that could be put forth to road use tax for that particular piece. That's never been really explained. I understand incentives and things like that that's involved, but what's it going to generate?
At this time, there's no additional agreement with the developer to take care of future maintenance. It would come into the maintenance of the city to do that. And then the second part to your question is what are the taxes that would be generated from that? I don't have that in front of me at this time, but I'd be happy to provide that to you.
I would like to hear that, because I'd like to see the checks and balances. It's likely that 10 years down the road, we're going to be spending some potentially serious money. I'd like to hear that before the next read.
Chet, then Councilman Finn.
In reference to asking the public to come in, the road is going to be improved. It's going to be better than it was. Centerpoint is going to maintain that road because there's their trucks using it. I mean, they don't want a truck being destroyed by the roadway itself. And I'm thinking back to our visit over to North Kansas City where we visited some of their properties that were there. The roadway over there were just fine. Their parking lot was fine. They're going to maintain this thing in a very positive manner. So I don't, the negative comments here I think are probably inappropriate.
Well, I think you're saying Centerpoint taking care of 155th Street.
North Point.
No, the outer road.
North Point.
Correction.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we were on the right road.
Absolutely.
You were going to say something.
Yeah, Mayor, I had a question. Would this set a new precedent if we had a road tax? Do we tax anybody else for a road frontage that they conduct business off of, like Quick Trip? Do we assess them for anything? They have a lot of traffic in and out of there. I'm just
No.
wondering, is this something new that would start in our other cities doing this? at all? I'm just kind of wondering.
We don't have an ongoing tax, but what we do have at the beginning are road impact fees.
Okay.
And that's part of the fee schedule of what's included in the agreement with the developer. And what I'm trying to find out right now, and I'm not sure that we know that, is what the property tax level payments are for the first year, and I just don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
So, my apologies.
I mean, personally, Councilman Trussell, I don't know if there's any negatives with this development. I don't think that me or Councilman Savage was speaking negative of the development. I just think, me personally, I just don't like second readings when I think we should have our residents who live over in that area be able to talk about it. So, I mean, I understand Councilman Savage saying who's going to take care of it, and I mean, eventually it's going to be the taxpayers. But if there's enough money generated from this thing, it's going to pay for itself. And that's me personally. I mean, they're going to eat at our restaurants. Hopefully they live in our communities, and we're going to pay for it, and eventually, so.
Are you gonna do a counterpunch here? Are you ready?
No, I think I'm probably be wasting my words.
Well, any other discussion? Now we're at the threshold. Anything at all? Seeing none.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Finn,
Aye.
Councilman Clark,
Aye.
Councilman Trutzel,
Aye.
Councilwoman Peak,
Aye.
Councilwoman Davidson,
Aye.
Councilman Van Winkle,
Aye.
Councilman Lathrop,
Aye.
Councilman Savage.
Aye.
That
You'll give me
motion
that
passes.
information, right?
I will. I've got it right here.
Well, I think what we're establishing, though, and it's good discussion, is that we don't have to do second readings all the time to give our citizens time to talk about this stuff and get back with us. So we've really got to put maybe an asterisk besides things that maybe are time sensitive. Is that my big concern, if they're time sensitive? Otherwise, we probably need to give time if there's something that we think that we've heard from our constituents that they need to take some time and be able to look at things, so.
I've been here 3 months, and every ordinance has been second reading every week, so I mean.
May I speak on that?
Sure.
To me, it takes out the ability to have time to think, swallow, chew on it, allow folks to talk to us. And, you know, that's something that in the past I've been able to depend on to become much better informed. I understand the time and things like that, but it seems to me that it's taken a lot of the value out of my ability to do the work properly, so.
I think that's valid. We need to all think about that when we do it. Councilman Lathrop.
Well, I think when we're having more two readings at the same time is because we eliminated the separate work session. So otherwise, we would get it done at the same time. We just have to meet another day.
Well, personally, I just think if it's not sensitive, I mean, if it's, you know, we voted on a couple things last time that was about Oates bus transportation. I mean, there's no issues there.
Yeah.
I mean, the senior center, I get there's some of those items that we just need to pass and move on. But some of these, I think, that are going into our citizens' areas, I think we ought to allow them, if they want to come speak to us, allow them to come speak. I mean, we just as a staff need to figure out how we're going to do this in a way that we can do it that fits what they need to do also, but allows our citizens to have a conversation with us. And we don't even find out about this until Friday, and to get on the agenda is Thursday. So how's the agenda, how's a citizen going to talk if they can't even get on it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's none of this stuff I'm against. I'm just saying that we gotta, as a staff, look at this and we gotta spread it out. If we're not gonna do work sessions, we gotta spread it out.
Okay, with that then, as I go to the first one, the next one, B, a motion approving both readings of Bill number 2019-38.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into agreement with WCA of Missouri LLC for the provision of waste disposal services for the City of Belton in accordance with the request for proposal RFP 19-003.
I get to make the first comment is, why are we doing the
So
double
moved.
reading? Yeah, move in a second, and discussion. Did you get the second?
Yes.
Okay, why are we doing a double read tonight? Is it critical?
Yeah, this is critical. This goes to Health and Human Services. We want to make sure that we have give the contractor enough time to set things up, move forward, and have things set up for the first week of July 22nd to be able to pick up services in town.
Councilman Finn, you were next.
You asked my question.
Dang.
Is this time sensitive? I think asked and answered. Yes.
It is time sensitive, but
Mhm.
some of these aren't time sensitive. We need to expand.
I had it written on here a long time ago, so I didn't just do it. Okay, I promise. Councilwoman Davidson.
Just to expand on that thought, our next meeting isn't until July 9th, and with the contract needing to be in place by what, the first pickup, the 22nd?
Correct.
Yeah, it's time sensitive.
Well, and what's that do to them? What would, if we prolong it, they don't have a contract yet.
Yeah, they wouldn't have a contract, and they would try, I know, very hard to facilitate our needs, but it really it sets them up for failure.
Okay. Any more discussion? Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We've got one. Okay, that motion passes.
Move for a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. So, a motion approving the second reading of Bill number 2019-38.
An ordinance of the City of Belton, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with WCA of Missouri LLC for the provision of waste disposal services for the City of Belton in accordance with the request for proposal RFP 19-003.
Motion and second, discussion. Seeing none.
Councilman Van Winkle,
Aye.
Councilwoman Peak. Aye. Councilman Savage,
No.
Councilman Trutzel,
Aye.
Councilman Finn,
Aye.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Clark,
Aye.
Councilman Lathrop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Davidson.
Aye.
That motion passes. Resolutions. A motion approving Resolution R 2019-55.
A resolution of the City of Belton, Missouri, approving a cooperative agreement for the City of Belton with Superior Bowen Asphalt Company, LLC, for the 2019 street preservation project in the amount of $3,491,424.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion.
Andrea said it good that time.
Okay, here we go. Now, we've got a list of all the ones that are going to be laid out.
So if you'll recall, back in March, I believe, I presented, the preliminary list of streets that we recommended. It was only about 10.3 million, not including inflation, because we wanted to calculate the curb costs. And so we may be able to add more in once we do that assessment. So taking that, those preliminary streets that we selected, then I took a look, and I can go into all of that again if anyone wants to, of how we selected those streets. But then what I did is, I really want to show some progress for the residents. And so what can we get done this year? And part of our so how I picked the streets for this year was really looking at, they're really all unimproved ones, unimproved sections, meaning they don't have curb, because we're completing the curb assessment right now to determine how much curb needs to be, what's the condition, how much curb needs to be replaced. It's a lot of work to do that. We haven't quite gotten it done yet, and so I really focused on these streets without curb, as well as we took a look at all the pipe under the road, because we didn't want to overlay a street and then have to go back and replace pipe. And so we have a couple small culverts that we need to do, but that's how I selected the streets for year one. Hopefully, if we can get that curb assessment done, then I'll start developing a year 2 and a year 3 program.
Okay,
we'll
so
know
with
ahead of
that,
time.
council people have a copy of the streets, the order or all that, which ones, or has the public got that, or can they see that on the website?
Page 94.
Well, I don't do the paper and my computer's down, so,
The streets approved for year one?
for year one.
Yes.
And those are the ones I have in my office, the ones I told you to come by and see today.
Right.
That you can see all the streets and especially in your wards, you should probably be cognizant of your wards so you can talk to your constituents about which ones are gonna be done. Councilwoman Peak, what ones are being done in your all's ward? Oh, it's too late. Anyway,
Fortunately, we have a lot in our ward, so.
And one thing, if you,
6? Well, they need them out in West Belton, I know for sure. There's several that need some help. And driving the streets, there's several that do. And you're saying that we're gonna get 3,491,000 plus?
yes, but the bonds, we haven't received the bonds yet, and so we have about 2.5 million that we're gonna start, and I need to get with the contractor. They're gonna start sometime this summer. I believe we're not going to get the bonds until October, so depending on the type of weather, you know, if it's a great fall, we'll be able to get all those streets done, but if it isn't, then we may have to push some of that back until early next year.
The last time we did it in fall was when we did the gravel roads.
Right, and we have, you know, we have standards of what the asphalt temperature, the ambient temperature needs to be in the ground temperature, and so we won't do that work if it doesn't meet that spec.
Questions? Councilman Clark?
I see on page 95, it looks like you're using two different types of asphalt. Is that what I'm reading out of that? You're removing 6 inches and replacing it with 4 inches of APWA type 1-01, whatever that is. And then you have 2 inches that says asphalt surface type 3-01. So is there like a base and then a top?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
So the surface is the top 2 inches, and the other is the base.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't going from 6-inch asphalt to 4-inch asphalt, and to me, the road wouldn't be as, but you're actually still gonna have 6 inches of asphalt.
Yes, and we also, if you'll notice, we have some contingency and extra base repairs, so once we get out there and if we're gonna look and see what's underneath the pavement, if we need to remove more, we have contingency in there for that.
Thank you.
You got anything on asphalt?
No, I'm just hoping that 10%'s enough.
Yeah.
That's a very large question right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked to the contractor about that, so we have 10% for that and 10% contingency, and that was my exact question, because they went out and took a look, and they did this work, they've done our streets for the last however many years, at least 3, but maybe more, and they felt comfortable with that number.
Do we have, I realize that's where the limit is here, but do we have ability to take from and add to in order, and we don't want to put anything at subgrades not excellent?
Right, yes,
And-
and that's part of the base repair and their quantities, and we can do a change order
Yeah.
if we're really finding out in the field that we need a lot more than that.
And I would expect probably, would be a statement that the base, in a lot of cases, there's probably no base as far as the black base goes, and the wear course, of course, that's pretty standard. A lot of this original road was put on with wear course anyway, wasn't it? Or do you know that?
That was put on, I'm sorry.
As
that was
far
put
as
on-
as far as the 4-inch or whatever is existing out there now, in a lot of cases, it didn't even have black base, did it?
There's
Asphalt
some
asphalt base?
that doesn't. I
Yeah, they
mean,
just had
there's
wear
some
course and we
sand
just kept adding.
Right, yeah,
So, yeah, it'll be fun.
yes.
Councilman Van Winkle, you were up.
Yes, as I look at these different rates and gradings, we're picking several serious and very poor over other failed streets. I'm assuming we don't have just 3 failed streets in the city. Is
No.
there, other than the curb issue, is there reasons that we're, say, not fixing all the failed streets and the worst first?
We're pretty much fixing, and I can present that plan again back in March, we're pretty much fixing all the failed streets. It's just this year, we're not, because of trying to assess the costs and look at the pipe, you know, these streets were easier to start and get some progress going, but we're definitely going to be, you know, repairing all the failed streets.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
I'm satisfied.
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
Celia, I noticed like MoDOT's doing, is it, cut-ins for driveways? Are we gonna have to do any of that, or is that, looks like on 71 Highway, they're adding concrete, they're tearing out people's concrete. Are we just doing roads and curbs and that's it?
Yes.
Okay.
But we're gonna send out letters to let the residents know that this is coming, and then the contractor will put out a flyer. So if any residents have any questions, you know, like, we're gonna pave this day, so you may, you know.
On vacation?
Well, you know, you'll have to just negotiate through there, and so that they'll be able to call the contractor too.
I got one real quick question, I'm sorry, but at the roundabout that I used to clean all the time, there at 58 and Westover, that drain, is that a responsibility of the city, or is that gonna be MoDOT? It doesn't work. I mean, there's no water that goes down it. I mean, it's,
Aren't they replacing,
pardon me?
the one on 58 is MoDOT's?
Okay, it's right, you know, where they join together. You guys
Sits
know
on the
I'm-
north side.
Huh?
It sits on the north side of that road. However, it touches 58. I took a look at it, was it Saturday morning or Sunday morning? I was out. It was just run right over the top of it. Nothing's going down in it. It's completely busted.
So as part of our stormwater projects that we will be doing with our stormwater bonds, which will be coming to you later,
Well,
later on in sessions, we will fix that storm drain if it's ours. We're planning to do stormwater improvements.
How far back, I guess I'm asking, off the road are they responsible, like the driveways, they go back so far?
Right away.
Huh?
They're just responsible in the right of way. And I don't know what their right of way is in that section, but.
I don't either. I guess
I
that's
can
what
take
I'm
a look at
asking.
it, but I think the one you're talking about may be cities. Maybe the cities.
Wow,
So I'll have to go take a look at that again.
thank you. Yes.
I have one question. I had a call from a gentleman over on Allen, and he'd called the city to get the ditch cleaned out. It had filtered in, and it was making the water go over his driveway, and he said it was washing it out, and he called the city, and they said they no longer clean the ditches.
There is a city ordinance that states that it's the homeowner's responsibility to take care of their ditches and their underground culvert. Now, we do have a cost share program for that. And I understand in years past, maybe many years, the city used to do that, which is a great service to provide. But the issue is that we have so many of our city pipe that's starting to fail with the sinkholes. We have another one. We have another sinkhole that you aren't aware about yet that just happened. And so we're really trying to focus on our city infrastructure right now and follow the ordinance so that homeowners can maintain their ditches, because that's all we would be able to do is clean out their culverts and ditches, and we wouldn't be able to attend to our city stormwater infrastructure.
So we're saying any ditch is responsible of the homeowners?
Yes. And that's been an ordinance on the books for a long time. I don't
I know,
know
but
that it.
right now, the ditch out in front of my place, we've had 3 wrecks there, all run in the ditch, and we have deep tire tracks coming across the ditch, so mowing it is almost impossible. And that's just mine. I don't know what the others are, but I managed to get it. I have to weed eat it, but, you know, nobody comes out and refinishes it after there's a problem with people running off the road and running through there.
You know,
So,
we could take a look at that if you
Yeah.
would
Well, there's
like.
2 or 3 of them down there right now.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at.
Yeah.
Other comments? Okay. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. City Council liaison reports. Park, Councilwoman Davidson?
Imagine a world where an entire city of who's live on a speck of dust. A cat talks and wears a large striped hat. An elephant goes on an adventure to find his place. Enter the fantastic world of Dr. Seuss. Join us in Memorial Park on Friday, August 9th at 8 p.m., where you will revisit your favorite characters, including the Cat in the Hat, Horton, and the Elephant Gertrude McFuzz, Lazy, Maisie, and JoJo. Music and dance will bring these characters and more on center stage with the talented cast from In the Light Performing Arts Center in Peculiar. It's free and appropriate for all ages. Bring blankets and chairs, but no coolers. There will be concessions. Join us in Memorial Park when Mamma Mia comes to life on stage on Friday, September 13th. My mom would love it. This sunny and funny tale unfolds on a Greek island paradise with the talented cast from In the Light Performing Arts Center in Peculiar. The storytelling magic of ABBA's songs create an enchanting tale of love, laughter, and friendship, resulting in an unforgettable show. It's a mother, a daughter, 3 possible dads, and a trip down the aisle you'll never forget. As always, it's free and appropriate for all ages. Bring blankets and chairs, but no coolers. There will be concessions at this one as well. Just an important reminder with the temperature forecast, anytime it drops below 70 degrees, the outdoor water park will close or will have a delayed opening. The Parks Department is also now hiring recreation assistant and field maintenance workers to help with the ball fields, moving bases, chalking lines, spreading the field dry, set up and take down of temporary fences, dragging baseball fields, etc. You can check into their website for more information.
That's it?
That's it.
How about the
Summerfest?
Summerfest?
It was amazing.
Well, who was our new queen? Who's our Belton queen?
Shelby Leaker. So we had 14 or 15 girls signed up. 9 girls actually showed up to compete, which is still a big number. Shelby Leaker was our winner. She's a fantastic girl, and actually all of the candidates were really great. We were very blessed to have all of them representing Belton, so we were very proud. For myself personally, like BCPI had a booth there. We just had a $1 duck game, and we ended up raising, I think, $265 for building maintenance. So that's $1 at a time. So you figure we had a lot of kids there, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I had a lot of time. You worked, Councilwoman Peak, you worked it a lot. What did you think? What was the highlight for you?
A lot of people seemed to have a good time. I was out there with the Neighborhood Watch Group for a while, and everybody just seemed to be having a good time. I walked around a little bit, not a lot, but a lot of kids running around, and I wasn't there for the fireworks. I had to go home and take care of my dog, but it was a good day. I think everyone had a great time.
Thank God the firefighters had sunscreen, or I would have been a mess.
Oh, yeah, it was really hot in those booths. But the fireworks were spectacular again this year, and I know that we really enjoyed it, and I know I liked my wife bought some of the caramel corn. I said that real quiet. Okay, Mayor's communication then. The storm was, honestly, was really tough on our city. And I guess I should start out before I'll say the manufactured homes, a lot of them were really hit hard. Tuscany, Peaceful Valley, and Springdale. Peaceful Home, did I say it? Peaceful Valley, I'm trying to get them all mixed up together. But they really got hit. Allen got hit hard too. There were a lot of you saw one out in West Belton. You guys said that there was a big one out there. And
Yeah, there were a couple pretty good-sized trees that had gone one across the street and another one split 3 ways in the front yard.
I had a line down in the backyard. That was fun.
it was bad. It was a lot of what do we want to call that? We called those. No, stop it. But it was a strong wind. What do we call those?
Gusnado.
Straight line. Yeah, straight line winds.
Gusnado.
How high was the mile per hour? What'd they say? 65, 75 miles an hour?
60 to 65.
60 to 65. It was pretty bad. So, we're thinking for them. So with that, where are you going to put the tree limbs?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah,
That's
we
you?
storm
Okay.
debris and limb drop-off this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. With the assistance of the Belton School District. Thank you very much to Dr. Underwood. It'll be at Gladden Elementary at 405 Westover Road. There's a map online to show how to enter and where to take your debris.
You're on. It's
Oh,
your
you're done?
time.
Okay. One of the other things that I wanted to let the council know, so do you want to go ahead and talk about the weather and the amount of water that we received this year? I've got it right here in front of me. I didn't know if you were going to speak to it or not. So Sunday we've got a new weather station located on this building. Sunday, we received 1.93 inches of rain, Saturday, 1.11, Friday, just under an inch. In June, overall, we've had 7 inches. In May, we had almost 14, 13.75. April, right at 7, March at 3, and it goes on. So we are starting to track that to be able to assist us in what we're looking at. Celia alluded earlier, we have had a number of sinkholes that have occurred in the city, so that's been taking a lot of our time. We have now had over a dozen of them. And our transportation crews are doing a great job in getting those repaired and working with the citizens, so they're doing a great job. And then the next thing that I wanted to let Councilman, I believe it was Trutzel know, the no parking signs were relocated and met all the MUTCD standards on Kenneth Ling. And Celia, did you have anything else? That was it? Okay. Okay. Mayor, that's all I have this evening.
Maybe Celia, with the sinkholes, is that a part of karst topography? Is it the limestone that we have, or is it?
Well, a lot of it's the additional rainwater, but we have a lot of corrugated metal pipe. And so it is starting to rust out and it's starting to separate, and the waters kind of help facilitate some of that, and that's why we're seeing a lot of those sinkholes.
Or in my neighborhood, we had one that you had to repair.
On Westover.
And how much would that have cost? What was the price, you think, to do that?
You know, our city crews did that one, so I'm sure they have the cost, but that's a lot less expensive than, hiring a contractor.
It looked really big. I'm just.
Oh, I think it was a 48-inch.
48 or 42. I didn't know which one we used because
Yeah.
I think we had the wrong one at one time and we replaced it.
You're talking about this, not the sinkhole on
Westover.
that was
Westover.
on
That's
Westover.
the one
That
on
one would be
Hargis.
too.
Yeah, it was. Our GIS showed it as a 48, but it was a 42, and so we've gone back in and replaced that.
Well, they saved money on Westover anyway.
Yes.
That was a big project in
Yes.
those people's backyards. That was a big deal. Other business, Councilman Lathrop.
I have one. Concern from the people over on Allen Street. There's 4 or 5 of them that had their basement flooded from the contractor that messed up the sewer problem. And they're not getting their basements cleaned out properly. They come out there and work on them, but they left the stink in there. It's still not done correctly.
We'll get hold of the contractor first thing.
I thought that was done.
I thought so too.
Well, we still need to follow up on it.
We'll
Councilman
follow
Lathrop,
up.
if I could get with you afterwards and find out specifically.
Addresses.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
Well, we could do that right now.
Okay.
They're sitting right out here in the audience.
Okay. All right, I'll meet with them as soon as the
So
meeting's
you
over.
can
yeah.
talk with them after the meeting.
That's great. That's a good way to get it done.
Yep.
That's good. Any other, yes, Dave Clark.
You brought it up, so I guess I need to ask a question. Chief person isn't here, so he is our emergency management director, and I had people Friday morning want to know why we didn't sound sirens, which I understand, and I don't know what our protocol is, and maybe Battalion Chief Sapp or somebody can answer when and how we send out spotters, because, I mean, I go off of National Weather Service, and they didn't have any tornado watches either, so just want to know what our protocol is before we send out spotters or send out the sirens, so.
Go ahead.
I can't necessarily speak to the protocol of when the spotters are called out. I don't run emergency management. As far as the situation Friday morning, as you stated, the National Weather Service never issued a tornado watch. The National Weather Service or NOAA never issued a tornado warning. There was no tornado indicated by radar. There was no tornado spotted by any trained spotters. The officers that I had out on the field observed straight line winds, which were very damaging, but at no point did they observe anything rotating or lifting anything out of the ground. So the decision was made not to set off the sirens as there was no indication of a tornado.
do you want to add on to that a little bit?
Yeah, because it was a hot topic of discussion, I did reach out to a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Pleasant Hill and spoke to a gentleman there, as well as had an email exchange with Gary Lezak, who informed me that with the severe thunderstorm warning that was issued on Friday morning, was that Friday morning?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. That it projected and said that there would be high winds. They projected that they would have 60 to 70 mile an hour winds and exactly what to expect. And so my specific question to him, because everyone kept asking, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get clarification, should we have set off the sirens? And he said no. That in that situation, that the sirens should not have been set off. That and the meteorologist in Pleasant Hill told me that there's in a situation like that, you wouldn't, that they liken a gustnado to a dirt devil, and that they can look really scary and that they can do some damage, but that they're not going to send thousands of people to their basement in a situation like that because they don't want them to become complacent when a tornado siren is aired. And that, you know, that kind of is that chicken or the egg, I suppose. That was the information that I received from them.
Oh, personally, I mean, we've had straight line winds that done a lot of damage in not just Belton, but other areas, and that's not a tornado, and I don't think sirens should go off, but we can't predict that. So tornado warnings usually give you that, a lot of rain, high winds. I mean, they give you a warning for a reason, but I just wanted to make, I want to know what our protocol was before we actually set off so we actually, when did the spotters go out? It has to be, is it National Weather Service issues a tornado watch? Is that when spotters go out, or when?
I can get those particulars from Chief
Okay.
Person for you.
Councilwoman Davidson.
I'll make this quick. So July 27th, there's going to be a Belton's Hot Talent Night at the Main Street Theater. A panel of judges, this is at 7 p.m., July 27th. The panel of judges will select the best in show, and every audience member will cast their ballots for a fan favorite. All monies raised go directly to preserve that building. A silent auction will also take place during the show. If you're interested in performing, prepare an act, skit, musical production, dance number, etc. Bring your set pieces, costumes, music props to auditions on July 8th and 9th. You may call 816-406-9422 to reserve an audition time. I'm done.
Are you going to try? Are you going to do it?
I am not talented.
Well, I can imagine some of us could dance or sing or. Oh, no. Other business. Any other business? Seeing none. Motion to enter executive session, discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610-0211, and matters pertaining to the hiring, firing, disciplining, or promotion of personnel according to Missouri Statute 610-0213, and matters pertaining to individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment according to Missouri State Statute 610-0213, and that the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Present.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Councilman Trutzel?
Aye.
Councilman Lathrop?
Aye.
Councilwoman Davidson?
Aye.
Councilman Finn?
Aye.
Councilman Clark? Aye. Mayor Davis?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peak?
Aye.
Councilman Van Winkle?
Aye.
Councilman Savage?
Aye.
That passes. We're adjourned. Thank you.